New drama for today's episode of As the Documents Turn. Get the rubber gloves ready, because the DOJ could expand the Biden document search to other sensitive locations. Dana, get your mind out of the gutter. We're talking about the beach house. Don't worry, though. Biden's lawyers have everything under control, and we just got exclusive video of their consensual search. Yeah, there you go. They really left no stone unturned. Meanwhile, there are a lot of lingering questions, but Biden's unqualified talking head is not too keen on answering them.
After a special counsel was named, but before the FBI searched, President Biden went to his house in Wilmington. What was he doing in there?
I would refer you to the White House counsel office.
So it was something relating to this case?
I would refer you to the White House counsel's office.
Okay. Do you think that this story was leaked by someone trying to bruise the president politically ahead of a re-election announcement?
I would refer you to the White House counsel's office.
We know the president did it. Why did he do it?
I would refer you to the White House counsel's office.
She's the best. So let's check in with the White House counsel's office.
There are many people out there in the media who sort of try to stir up controversy to get attention or time on camera. The underlying issue that we're talking about here is that as soon as the president's personal team noticed something, they immediately and promptly and transparently disclosed that to the proper authorities.
Everyone in Biden's orbit keeps spinning, but some top Democrats are not buying it.
The process we go through is so elaborate and careful to review any of these documents that I can't understand how any individual senator can take possession of a classified document, let alone remove it to another location. It's just unthinkable.
I never take classified documents to my house. I don't know any reason why people would. I am very, very careful about it, and I would assume that everyone else is. But clearly, there's a problem here.
And in a major plot twist, former Vice President Mike Pence found classified documents at his home in Indiana last week and turned them over to the FBI. Jesse. So Trump was right about Pence. I'm joking.
But I mean, Pence, seriously.
Yeah.
We have this great thing going with Joe.
And you just ruined it.
And come on, man.
Well, what are we going to do?
And then he confessed to it. I mean, he could have just destroyed it. We never would have known.
And we have to be fair and balanced and show both sides.
I know, now we have to show both sides. And you know Pence is so clean. He's so squeaky clean.
He is clean.
It's nothing like the real bad documents that Joe Biden was squirreling away.
Do you think he just wanted to be included?
He's like, hey, I'm running for president too.
Yes.
Investigate me. I looked at secret stuff. But this does hurt Biden. Remember how Biden was trying to put himself against Trump? Like, oh, Trump was reckless and he had him at Mar-a-Lago and, you know, it was, I did it consensually. Yeah. You know, my search was consensual and I've cooperated and transparent. Compared to Trump, he could maybe make that argument, even though he's the VP and he doesn't have classification authority. But now you compare Biden to Pence, and Biden doesn't look so clean. Pence didn't even open the box.
Yeah.
Pence had the box still taped up, and then when someone looked at it, he put it in a safe and called the archivist like that day. Come on. Not what Biden did. He didn't have it next to a Corvette. You know, he didn't have it at the think tank. So it is a little bit different, but come on, Mike.
It is worse than whatever Trump did because, A, he can't, not being able to classify it is a big deal.
I mean, both of those guys, Pence and, but I think we should raid Gore's house.
Yes.
Obama's.
Yeah. In Hawaii. Who knows what we know?
Oh, I'd go all the way back to Kenya, Jesse. You know, that's a joke, America.
Yeah.
Dana,
I'm not laughing.
You should. Are there a lot of people that work in the White House now that are like a wave of people getting ready to have classified docs removed?
I just feel like they are sitting there going, you mean that we did better in the midterms than we thought we were going to do? We take back the Senate, and we've spent the first 5 weeks of this term talking about the president having classified documents at several homes, even going back to his Senate days, after he said that Trump was so irresponsible. And I just think it's a shame. It's a shame because, one, people do get in trouble for mishandling classified documents. They could be fired. Their reputations could be ruined. They could never work in their profession again in their field, or they could even be prosecuted and do jail time. So if Biden had just said at the beginning, whoa, I shouldn't have done that, irresponsible, we're gonna have this consensual search, we're good here, they could move on. I also think it hurts this White House when they can't even answer just like basic questions. For example, I don't understand why you have to refer to the White House counsel's office this question. Do you think that people should handle classified documents appropriately? I refer you to the White House counsel's office. Like, you can't even answer that.
That's bad.
You know what that tells me?
What?
That tells me that when you can't answer a simple question like that, you know, when instead prefer the drip, drip, drip of what's going on, it almost seems like she's referring to the president as a defendant. You have to speak to his lawyer about that. She's not referring to, and I heard Jonathan Turley talk about this earlier, she's not referring to the president as the president, but rather as a person who may be a suspect in a criminal investigation. She's not doing them any favor. But I got to tell you, the one thing, Jesse, that is so much worse, and we can go whataboutism, and I think at the end of this, there's got to be some new rules on this stuff because everybody's violating it, so it appears. But when you go into a skiff and you come out of that skiff, I mean, you're not entitled to that document. You can't even read it until you go in the skiff. And then you take it home when you're a senator. I mean, Durkin and Schiff themselves went after Biden for that. That's where Biden's in big trouble.
Also, how many homes does Biden have? I mean, what a lucrative career for a politician.
Government.
I mean,
and a school teacher.
Never had a private, for 50 years. And he's got all this money. I almost think that's a sign of corruption that went on for decades. That's what Harold was saying in the green room. You said people that are found with classified documents, we should execute them, Harold. That's what you said.
Did I say that?
Yes.
It's good to be back. Two things. One, to the judge's point with Ms. Jean-Pierre, I think that the White House has chosen, Dana, to pursue a legal strategy at the expense of a PR strategy. And I think we saw that today. Whether that's right or wrong, whether that is something we prefer or not, that's where they are. Two, there's no doubt, Judge, they're going to have to reevaluate how documents are classified, how long they stay classified, and for that matter, how when vice presidents and presidents leave the Naval Observatory in the White House, how they account for what they have and what they don't have. And perhaps instead of allowing staffs to pack them up, they may have to have professionals, those who know how to do this and deal with this kind of information, these documents come in, or at least help oversee that process. But look, we can talk about the differences between the three, but without question, you have the president, the vice president, former president, and now current president, two of them with special counsels looking into this. And it could very well be that it could rise to the level with Mr. Pence. Now, what's interesting to me and remains interesting to me about President Biden's situation, November 14th, said it before, Attorney General Garland decided to appoint the U.S. Attorney from Illinois, the Republican appointed U.S. Attorney by Mr. Trump, to oversee what they discovered November 2nd or 3rd. From November 4th to January 5th, it seemed fine. And all of a sudden, Attorney General Garland decided to appoint a special counsel in President Biden's situation to oversee it. So something happened. There's some standard, much like with President Trump, there was a standard. I don't believe that President Trump declassified all those things, because his lawyers would have just said from the very beginning. Furthermore, you can't declassify things if you're no longer the president. But if he declassified it when he was president, but his lawyers didn't. His lawyers have not.
But here's what happened.
But hold on one second. So all I'm saying is there are two special counsels have been, one for each of them, which means some standard has been breached or some standard has been triggered. It doesn't appear from the language from Vice President Pence, the former Vice President Pence, since the boxes were sealed. Like, I've not heard anyone fully ask President Biden, were those boxes open? We've all assumed that they were all open. We've even circled something in his garage, looking at the picture, thinking that's the stuff. But if those boxes were open, that's a big difference between Vice President Pence
document was in his office.
and President Biden. I'm agreeing with you. But I just don't. The declassification thing, I do not agree with.
But I think it's important to make the distinction. The difference between having the Attorney General look at it and then a special counsel is the DOJ knew about it, as you say, on November 14th. But then on December 20th or December 18th, they found more and nobody knew about it. That's, to me, the change where now we need a special counsel.
And that's why we heard that the Justice Department said that they don't trust fully the Biden private lawyers.
Exactly.
Well, whatever. There's something that's clear because that and this is a Democrat appointed Attorney General. Matter of fact, the president himself appointed him. So something has been triggered
cooking.
there.
I would
with
appoint
President
my
Trump
brother
and
as Attorney
President
General.
with President Trump, Mr. Kennedy.
You got to appoint a real trustworthy person as Attorney General. They'll turn on you and they'll just appoint a special counsel to investigate you.
That's because a standard had been breached. That's why they
Stop.
It's
politics.
You know, Mike Pence stated earlier that he would never be alone with classified documents. So I thought that was really good. Idea from Harold, a classified moving documents company. Wouldn't that be great? You show up. Do you have to get pizza for them? They show up and move your classified documents?
Just Gatorade.
Just Gatorade, that's all.
The same lunch that you're eating?
Yeah, just water.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.